So the FNAF 2 trailer has dropped, and in it there's so many Easter eggs and hidden secrets, and in today's video we're going to be breaking all them down, and believe me, you're not going to want to miss a single bit of this. And I'd like to start immediately by saying they talk about the FNAF 2 location, and they say this is one of the originals, not a franchise location, and it's been abandoned for decades. That is extremely interesting, and I'll come back to that later. We obviously see the Freddy Fazbear Pizza logo. It has the toys on there, we can see it right now, Bonnie, Freddy and Chica, and it shows us basically the inside of the location. We see Balloon Boy, which is absolutely fantastic. We see a kind of like ride in the location where it kind of looks like a log flume ride where it's inside a cave and you can see like all the water underneath. Well, the water's been drained and they're going over a bridge. You know, kind of like that one Rainforest Cafe location, and they've got a ride inside of their location. So it's kind of reminiscent to that. And what is interesting is these group of explorers are going in with a camcorder, like documenting their findings. And this is where things get interesting. They reveal the toys hidden behind a curtain, saying that a girl has been murdered. They're under like lots of sheets and everything else, and the guy is still recording this. And it says some little girl got murdered here. Now, is that in relation to the puppet? Because obviously we know Charlie was murdered and goes inside of the puppet and possesses it. Because the next scene we see is a lady going into a room with a giant like present box. And we all know what was in the present box in FNAF 2, and that was the puppet. It seems to be mechanical, it's getting wound up, ready to pounce or something jump out of it, and then obviously it all goes black. It doesn't show us the puppet in its entirety. And obviously then the lady screams. Now, you might be asking the question, well, is the puppet actually in it? Well, this is a clear giveaway, yes. And then later on, we actually see the puppet's hands. And there it is, at 1 minute 42, you see the hands go over what looks to be a skylight. And it's clearly the puppet's hands. That is an animatronic hand. It has 3 fingers on there. Again, exactly like the puppet. So we know the puppet is definitely there. And upon further examination, at 1:47 in the trailer, where we see a scene of Vanessa herself, in the background blurred out is actually the puppet right there. That's confirmation number 1. We also see Mangle. She literally attacks like the big van or car in the trailer. Again, that's great because we now know Mangle is in there. At 1:57, you literally see an animatronic with one eye and a patch over it, and all around it is completely withered. That, to me, is obviously one of the Withereds. But what is really confusing in this is they say it's an original location. Now, if it was an original location, that would mean pre-1987, right? Surely an original location would be 1983. Does that mean then the Withereds were original in this location, and then they went to the toys because they refurbished the location in 1987? Before it goes into a franchise, basically that's what they say. We see what seems to be like a snippet of Springtrap in there. Now, whether that's a vision, you know, like a hallucination, which Vanessa is seeing, is unknown at this stage because he seems to grab her by the throat and, you know, she pulls a gun out. I personally think that's kind of like her imagining something and he's in the house. But this is the really interesting one for me. There's a snippet right at the very end at 2:04 where you see Mike looking down a corridor, exactly like the corridor in the FNAF 2 location game. You know, there's no doors there. It's an open front, open corridor, vent to your left, you know, bits and pieces there. And what else do we see? The awesome callback to the FNAF 2 mask. And Mike actually says, there's no way this will work. Where we then see him put the mask on and it fools Withered Chica. We also see Withered Bonnie, what looks to be climbing through some type of vent. And interestingly enough here, Mike actually has the flashlight. Now, we know the flashlight in FNAF 2, the game, was used to kind of like daze Foxy. So it'll be interesting to see whether Mike uses that flashlight in the movie to literally daze Foxy. We know that the animatronics are also out in the open. They clearly state that during the trailer. And we see Toy Freddy literally going through like the FNAF Fest, and all the people are kind of looking at him. So we obviously know the animatronics are out in the town in this film. We also see a scene in our like log flume location inside of the FNAF 2 location where the water seems to be there and something's coming under the water. Now, in terms of animatronics, what could that be? Because we know water in the first one seems to short them out. So what would actually be under the water in this location? It couldn't be anything electrical, right? Because it would short them out. That would totally go against everything we saw in the first FNAF 1 location. Unless, for whatever reason, these toy animatronics are resilient to water. You know, literally waterproof. That would be the only thing. And actually, just before this frame of what was under the water, we see what looks like a propeller hat go underneath the water. That, to me, is definitely Balloon Boy, right? That would mean that Balloon Boy is, in fact, not electrical and wind up. You know, mechanical as such. Well, that's what I believe would be under the water anyway. We also kind of get a snippet of Mike and Vanessa together in like an intimate dining setting. Now, that doesn't mean they're together as in like together. It could mean they're, really close friends and they're going out to celebrate something, her getting better, whatever it might be. He does give the indication that we've come pretty far, is what he says. Now, is that them together as friends or them developing a relationship is unknown. Mike is definitely in a suit and tie, which is new for him because, he usually just goes around in his normal clothes. Vanessa's looking quite dolled up as well in a nice dress. That could be because it's a nice restaurant. But whether they're together or not is unknown at this stage. We clearly know the plot is going to focus around Abby going to find the old animatronics. We see the Faz talker, them trying to communicate with Abby, help them, repair them. In doing so, they come across the toys. The toys have obviously escaped this location, which I have theories on this in the past. Basically, I think their facial recognition software has gone absolutely haywire and they're seeing everyone in the database as criminals and they're going out there attacking anyone they see fit. I mean, anyone who's on the criminal database, whether it's a parking fine, littering, whatever it might be, they're targeting these people because they're connected to the database and decide to hunt them down. And just from this 2 minutes worth of a trailer, we've already confirmed numerous things which we were speculating on previously. Is the puppet in there? That is now confirmed. Are the Withered's in there? That is now confirmed. A FNAF 2 location, kind of confirming that they were the originals. So the Withered's were probably there before the FNAF 2 animatronics. So although this was a 2-minute trailer, we've got so much information out of it already. We know the puppet is now in there. We know the Withered's are in there. Mangle is in there. And interestingly enough, it tells us that this FNAF 2 location was an original location. But by that, do they mean original 1983 or original 1987? And are the Withered's the classics we see in the original movie? So that's a little bit up in the air. Obviously, I've got loads of theories on that on the channel, so I highly recommend checking them out and how they can play into this movie. I really love the designs. I think the designs look fantastic, especially on the animatronics. Absolutely great designs there. Really looking forward to seeing them. Really looking forward to seeing Springtrap as well, a bit more decrepit maybe. Henry in some of the flashback scenes, because we know he is now part of this, thanks to behind the scenes information. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this story is going to play out. Again, if you want to know more on the backstory and everything else, I've done videos on that previously, so I'm not going to regurgitate it here. I just wanted to point out, well, for me, what I saw and what I believe are definitely interesting finds and confirmation of what's in the movie. And if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe for plenty more FNAF content, and there's loads on the channel. Go watch it after this. I'm Twisted Animatronic. Stay safe out there, superstars.